Hey everybody, Norm from Test.com here at Comic-Con 2016. One of the last things I expected to find at Comic-Con was Alex Schwartz and VR, HTC Vive VR demos.
We are here.
But you guys are here.
We're doing it.
Yeah, so you guys announced recently you've partnered with Adult Swim to do a Rick and Morty game.
Of course.
Amazing. And when you made the announcement, it sounded like such a no-brainer. Job simulator, you know, things to do, pick up, interact with, tasks to do. He described basically the structure and the idea behind the game.
Sure, I mean, and the idea really emerged out of the concept of Justin Roiland actually said, hey, I love Job Simulator, we should hang out. And we were just drinking together, and it was almost like at the same time we pitched to each other, what if Job Simulator was in Rick's garage? And it's just like, you don't even have to really say much more after that, because all the mechanics and all the crazy stuff that's in the garage, all the, you know, chemistry sets and just things on the shelf and on the walls and all the zany characters, you could do that in a space where your hands are like number one and they're key. So
room scale and garage scale.
Garage scale, yeah.
And I mean, Job Simulator is kind of like a sandbox. A lot of things to discover.
Yeah.
When we talked in the past about basically the recipes, how things can interact with each other.
Oh, yeah.
You're adding, I mean, you don't have to base things in the real world because it's a science fiction world. It's a cartoon.
Right.
It's up to your imaginations and the imaginations of Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon.
Right. Yeah.
But then you also have real characters.
Yeah.
So talk about that.
That's definitely a big difference between Job Simulator and this, is that, you know, we've got fully rigged bipedal characters which are moving, and obviously they're cartoons and they've never been really brought into 3D. So the first initial tough work was like, okay, well, how does Rick look in 3D? And so we did a lot of iterating on that, and we didn't want to fall into the weird uncanny valley. And that's the thing, you know, you work really hard on, is that if a character's up to you talking directly in your face, you know, you don't want to be super intimidated or scared by it. And you know, it's a comedy-based IP and should just be fun and light. And we found that, like, and you've probably heard this, anyone doing social VR with other people is like, their avatar needs to have eyes that don't stare maniacally at you forever, and like the way their eyes dart and the way their movements are.
They almost have to interact with each other.
Yeah. And like Rick and Morty interplay in the show in a certain way, and they interrupt each other, and Rick is always like dissing everyone around him and telling you you're stupid. So you know, we needed to figure out a way to have the protagonist, since they're silent and you're in VR and you can't talk, how do you play? Are you Rick? Are you Morty? Are you something else? And you know, I don't want to spoil, you played it obviously, but I don't want to spoil for everybody. We figured out a way that, you know, you're a character in there and you could still see Rick and Morty interacting. And
the design of you being a character in that world, that also allows you to change their interactions to you, where they can be more dismissive of you, because maybe you're not as important as them. But like that role you play. In
the first 12 seconds, they tell you you're a piece of crap, and you know that they've set you way down. And we are, you know, also with Justin and Dan's style, they always kind of joke their way out of weird loopholes in story and plot and narrative. So we like to joke about like, oh, you're just a floating head and hands, and like VR, that's as far as we got today. You know, like in that IP, you could really laugh your way out of any corner.
Now, what I also experienced in the demo is that you have more puzzle-based elements in this game than before. In Job Simulator, there was a lot of making, again, recipes, making the thing A was in thing B at the right time, in the right order. But I saw some interesting puzzle elements where you're making use of VR space.
Yeah, we wanted people to be able to, we think that really Job Simulator was a perfect intro to VR, and we didn't want to introduce anything like teleportation or any other buttons other than picking up and interacting. We think that really, really worked as far as being intuitive, and everyone just got it right off the bat. And we think that now that we're like really like a year into high-end VR being starting to come on the market and all that, is we can start adding a little more, and the garage is a little bigger, and so you can see in the teaser that there's more spaces to be around in, and we're actually using a teleport mechanic to move around.
It's not the teleporter gun.
Not the teleporter gun, but there are portals.
That's right.
And you get to jump through portals, which is super awesome.
Yeah.
And everyone wants to do that, and so we're trying to integrate as much as the cool stuff that is in the show into the game.
So can you say how big the game will be? How many, is it going to be a lot of spaces outside of the garage? What can you say right now?
So we haven't said much, but people were wondering whether it was just a quick like marketing, you know, demo just for Comic-Con. It's going to be its own fully fledged game, and we don't have a release date or anything. We've said it's coming to the Vive, but you should expect it sometime in the near future.
compared to how much dialogue and writing had to be in Job Simulator,
Yeah.
in games there's a lot of writing, way more than in TV shows.
Yeah.
Is that partnership, like who's doing the writing? What's that collaboration like?
It's actually really funny. So we're all huge fans of the show already off the bat. And then when we figured out that we're going to do this deal, we started writing internally and figuring out what we wanted to do. And then Justin was saying, "Hey, I'll help you with the writing and the design." And he does all the VO for Rick and Morty, and he can help us figure out funny moments and all that. And so we had to work on our own and then bring him stuff. And he said, "This is fantastic. Like what you guys did is your stubbed VO, fake VO. I do a really poor job of doing Rick and Morty, and so does Andrew. So we actually record and write all the lines ourselves in-house, and then we hand them over to Justin. He adds his ad-lib craziness on top of our like core, design and where it's going, and then does the improv and VO on it, and then we get it back, and then we lip sync to that, and we animate to that, and so we've got a pipeline going where the humor is really like organic, and it just feels right. So it seems to be working out, and it's really funny.
Are you thinking of this just as a room scale game, or for other platforms outside of the Vive?
We haven't said anything about other platforms. Obviously, you're in a big space, and you need to be able to turn around 360. So we're looking at, just making sure that this is a high quality experience, and other platforms, we'll figure out what happens there.
You have a game to make.
Got to make a game. Got to make it funny. Got to do it right.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that experience with me here at Comic-Con. It's always great to see you, Alex.
Cool, man. Thanks.
All right, here are some spoiler-filled impressions of that demo. I know Alex couldn't say exactly what was in there, but I can. So here's what that 5-minute demo entailed. When you teleport into the game, you are a clone of Morty. And you're not the same height as Morty, you are your height, basically a floating head, but Rick and Morty talk about you as if you're a clone and then you're sent to do their bidding. So simple tasks, things that are very reminiscent of Job Simulator, like doing Morty's laundry. You're picking dirty clothes out of a laundry basket, putting it into the washing machine. That stuff seems fairly simple, but then it quickly turns into actually a puzzle game. So Rick and Morty, the characters, leave, they go on their adventures, and so at that point there's not a lot of interaction, they're not talking to you, but then they pop up on little television screens that tell you to do things. And if you're a fan of the show, you know there's a character called Mr. Meekseeks, and there's a box. You press the box and a Mr. Meekseeks pops up. In the game, they have a character called Mr. U-Seeks. And what it is you pick up a ball, throw the ball on the ground, and pops up a Mr. Meekseeks head wearing VR goggles that mimic your movement. And here's where the puzzle elements come into play. You're then sent on to do tasks, but in places where you can't actually get to because of the constraints of the room scale. So you have to launch these U-Seeks balls, where the U-Seeks then deploy, and you can do lots of them at a time, and then have them pick up things and activate things. And so it's like having clones of you running around that you puppet because they're mimicking your actions. And when I picked up an object, they'll also pick up an object, for example. So it's a little bit of a mental twist there. I actually like that kind of puzzle element. I like the narrative elements. At the end of the game, other than this demo, I did walk through one of those portals, the green portals, into a different world. So hopefully there'll be more of that, more than just the garage. And what Alex said is it's gonna be a full-blown game, so looking very forward to it. I hope, it seems like they're designing it really just for the Vive, just for room scale. I can't really think of a way right now that it would work with the Oculus, but the teleportation mechanic in the game that you teleport in, actually, you don't go anywhere, there are preset teleportation points. So maybe that's how it'll work with the Rift and touch controllers. But that's our demo of the Rick and Morty VR experience being developed by Owlchemy Labs and made by Adult Swim Games. And we'll have more from Comic-Con.